Imagine the greatest hero humanity has ever known, a warrior who conquered the galaxy in the name of enlightenment and unity, suddenly turning his guns on his own father and plunging civilization into the most devastating civil war in history. The Horus Heresy wasn't just a rebellion. It was the death of humanity's golden age, the birth of an eternal nightmare, and the moment when hope itself became heresy. This 9-year conflict killed trillions, fractured the Imperium, and transformed the Emperor from humanity's protector into a silent corpse god. Let's dive in. If you're new to Warhammer 40k, here's what you need to know. The setting takes place in the 41st millennium, M41 in the lore's dating system, where humanity spans 1 million worlds in a brutal, decaying empire called the Imperium. The Imperium worships a god-like figure called the Emperor, who sits immobile on a golden throne, sustained by the sacrifice of thousands daily. But the Emperor wasn't always like this. 30,000 years before the current timeline, in M30, he walked among humanity as an active leader, launching a great crusade to reunite humanity across the stars. The Horus Heresy, which occurred in M31, explains how everything went catastrophically wrong, and why the galaxy is now the grimdark hellscape it is today. Picture this. Terra, the cradle of humanity, in the 30th millennium, after surviving the Age of Strife, a period where humanity nearly went extinct. The Emperor emerged to unite Earth's warring techno-barbarian kingdoms. But his vision extended far beyond one planet. The Emperor created 20 genetically engineered superhumans called Primarchs, designed to be his generals in reclaiming the galaxy. These weren't just soldiers. They were demigods, each embodying different aspects of warfare and leadership. However, the Chaos Gods, malevolent entities dwelling in the warp, a hell dimension that underlies reality, scattered the infant Primarchs across the galaxy. The Emperor spent decades recovering them, and each became the genetic template for a legion of space marines, superhuman warriors numbering tens of thousands. With these tools, the Great Crusade began 2 centuries of the most successful military campaign in human history. Among the Primarchs, one stood above all others, Horus Lupercal, Primarch of the Lunar Wolves Legion. Charismatic, brilliant, and beloved by his brothers, Horus won more campaigns than any other Primarch. The Emperor trusted him so completely that he appointed Horus as War Master, supreme commander of all Imperial forces, while the Emperor returned to Terra for a secret project. This decision would prove catastrophic. Horus felt abandoned. The Emperor had left the crusade at its height, without explanation, and whispers began. Was the Emperor building a divine empire while his sons bled in the void? Did he even see them as sons, or merely as tools to be discarded once the crusade ended? On the moon of Davin in M31, Horus was wounded by a corrupted weapon. His closest advisors, the word-bearer chaplain Erebus chief among them, performed a ritual to heal him, plunging Horus's spirit into the warp. There, the Chaos Gods showed him visions, a future where the Emperor was worshipped as a god, where Horus himself was forgotten, where everything he'd fought for was perverted into religious tyranny. These visions were carefully crafted lies and half-truths, but they found fertile ground in Horus's wounded pride. When Horus awoke, he was changed. The Chaos Gods had promised him power to prevent that terrible future. They whispered that the Emperor had always planned to betray his sons, that only by seizing control could humanity's true potential be realized. Horus began recruiting his brothers to his cause, targeting those already nursing grievances. Angron, whose legion the Emperor had mutilated with aggression-enhancing implants. Mordorion, who resented authority. Lorgar, whose religious devotions the Emperor had brutally punished decades earlier, and others, each with their own reasons to doubt. The heresy began in earnest at Isstvan III. Horus ordered 4 legions to pacify a rebellious world, then virus-bombed the planet's surface, with his own loyalist elements on the ground. The Life-Eater virus was so potent that it consumed all organic matter, generating firestorms that scorched continents clean. Horus had just murdered a third of his own forces to ensure only the traitors remained. This was followed by the drop site massacre at Isstvan V, where 7 legions were deployed to confront Horus, but 4 secretly already traitors. The loyalists walked into a killing field. In a single day, 3 loyalist legions, the Salamanders, Raven Guard, and Iron Hands, were shattered. The Iron Hands pre-march, Ferrus Manus, was beheaded by his own brother, Fulgrim. It was the most devastating ambush in Imperial history, and it gave Horus an unstoppable momentum toward Terra. For 7 years, the galaxy burned. Legions that fought side by side now tore each other apart. The Mechanicum split in civil war. Entire sectors were depopulated. But the ultimate prize was Terra itself. In M31, Horus's armada, bloated with demonic power and corrupted beyond recognition, arrived at humanity's homeworld. The Siege of Terra lasted 56 days and nights. The Imperial Palace, a continent-spanning fortress, became the site of the most brutal urban warfare imaginable. The Death Guard deployed bioweapons that turned hive cities into necrotic nightmares. The World Eaters, lost to the blood god Khorne, drowned entire districts in slaughter. Demons poured through warp rifts to fight alongside the traitors. Each day, billions died. The Loyalists held critical advantages. Fortifications designed over centuries, the Emperor's presence, and the Adeptus Custodes, the Emperor's elite bodyguards. But Horus had demonic allies, and the powers of all 4 Chaos gods flowing through him. Rogel Dorn, pre-march of the Imperial Fists, directed the defense with calculating precision, turning every street into a killing ground. Sanguinius, the angelic pre-march of the Blood Angels, held the ultimate gate against impossible odds, personally slaying a bloodthirster demon. Then Horus made his fatal mistake. With victory nearly in his grasp, he lowered the void shields on his flagship, the Vengeful Spirit. Some sources suggest this was overconfidence. Others, that Horus wanted to face his father personally. The Emperor, Sanguinius, and Rogel Dorn teleported aboard for a desperate decapitation strike. The trio fought through a ship transformed into a living nightmare, where corridors led nowhere, where reality itself was corrupted. Sanguinius reached Horus first. The Emperor's most beloved son, knowing he would die, confronted his fallen brother. The battle was brief and brutal. Horus, empowered by all 4 Chaos gods, broke Sanguinius like a toy, snapping his wings and crushing his body. But in that final moment, Sanguinius struck a blow that left a tiny crack in Horus's armor and his confidence. The Emperor arrived to find his favorite son dead. What followed was a battle beyond mortal comprehension. Horus and the Emperor had each transcended normal existence, one through chaos, one through psychic mastery perfected over 40,000 years. The ship shook with their power. Here's what many don't know. The Emperor initially held back. Despite everything, he couldn't bring himself to destroy his son. It was only when Horus obliterated an Imperial army soldier, a normal human who charged the War Master with nothing but courage, that the Emperor saw Horus was truly gone. The Emperor unleashed his full psychic might. He obliterated Horus's soul so completely that even the Chaos gods couldn't resurrect him. But the cost was catastrophic. Horus's final blow had mortally wounded the Emperor, shattering his body beyond any hope of natural healing. The Emperor's condition forced a terrible choice. He could die and abandon humanity, or be entombed in the Golden Throne, a half-finished psychic device originally meant to create a human webway. Rogel Dorn made the choice his father couldn't: eternal imprisonment. For 10,000 years, the Emperor has sat on the golden throne, his rotting corpse sustained by the psychic sacrifice of 1,000 souls daily. He cannot speak, cannot move, cannot lead. He had become the very thing he fought against, a god to be worshipped. The heresy's aftermath transformed the Imperium fundamentally. Guilliman's Codex Astartes split the legions into smaller chapters to prevent future betrayals. The imperial truth, the Emperor's doctrine of reason and atheism, was abandoned in favor of the Imperial Creed, which worships the Emperor as divine. Exactly what Horus saw in his visions had come to pass, making his betrayal a horrifying, self-fulfilling prophecy. 9 traitor legions fled into the Eye of Terror, a region where reality and the warp overlap. There they remain, emerging in black crusades to raid and destroy. The Death Guard spreads plagues. The Thousand Sons seek forbidden knowledge. The World Eaters kill without purpose. They have become monsters, enslaved to the very powers they thought would free them. But perhaps the greatest tragedy is what humanity lost: potential. The Emperor's secret project was a human-controlled webway, which would have freed humanity from warp travel and cut off Chaos's influence forever. Magnus the Red, attempting to warn his father about Horus's betrayal, accidentally destroyed this project with a psychic message. The Imperial webway collapsed, its gates now requiring constant psychic effort to keep sealed. Effort provided by the Emperor on the throne. Everything the Imperium is in M41. Xenophobic, stagnant, brutal, irrational. Stems from a heresy. It wasn't supposed to be this way. Humanity was meant to inherit the stars through enlightenment and science. Instead, we got an empire built on superstition, sacrifice, and suffering. In M42, the current timeline, the heresy's echoes still reverberate. Robert Guilliman has awakened and discovered the Imperium has become everything his father despised. The traitor legions continue their long war, still bitter about defeats 10,000 years old. Abaddon the Despoiler, once Horus's right hand, has torn the galaxy in half with his 13th Black Crusade, creating the Great Rift. And the Emperor? Some believe his psychic power is growing even as his body fails, that he's becoming something beyond human, perhaps the god the Imperium already believes he is. The Horus Heresy teaches us something profound about Warhammer 40k. It's not grimdark because evil won. It's grimdark because good people, with noble intentions, created this nightmare through their flaws, pride, fear, secrecy, and the inability to communicate. The Emperor's refusal to explain himself, Horus's wounded pride, Magnus' desperation to help. Each failure compounded until billions died and humanity's future was stolen. The Imperium of Man survives in M42 not because it's strong, but because it's too stubborn to die. And that, ultimately, is the legacy of the Horus Heresy. Humanity endures, but the dream died 10,000 years ago. Want to explore what happened to specific traitor legions after their exile? Let me know in the comments. Subscribe for more deep 40k lore. And remember, in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war.